Okay. So if you remember at the beginning of the slide presentation, you've got this wad of confusion here is basically what that is. So what this symbolizes is that this idea of the design process being this neat little linear process that goes from design to create to deliver is not, you remember me calling it ideal? Okay, so when we're here in Define, which is what you guys have been doing really well in terms of research, this is where we do design research to figure out where we're going to go, what's our design direction going to be. So oftentimes you get here and you begin to create, and what happens?
You get confused, you start having trouble.
Get confused. What kind of trouble are you talking about having?
Technical trouble.
Could have technological, yeah.
Having trouble designing new ideas, brainstorming.
Right. Maybe you're grasping for ideas and nothing's coming to you, and you'd rather just, get a glass of wine and get into bed and forget about everything, right? Okay, that's very typical. If that's happening to you, that's what should happen. And when you get to that part, this point here, don't tell yourself, oh, I got to create. I can't back up. I've got to create. No, you might need to back up and better define some things over here. You may get into the process of trying to find a design direction or doing some sketches and just realize you need a little bit more research done, or you need to go talk to a few more people, or maybe you need to read the brief again, or maybe you need to learn some new techniques in terms to help your brainstorming, all right? So that's why that process can be so messy. But ultimately, you're going to have a deadline out here where you got to deliver. So that's what you're always up against, is this deadline. The company wants to roll it out on March the 16th, and it's March the 14th, 12 o'clock at night, right? And you feel like you're still over here, right? Freaking you out. All right, so what we're going to do today is I'm going to tell you a little bit more about working in here and then moving back over here, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. We're out here and we're just gathering up every kind of bit of information we can think of right out here, right? And then we're coming back and we're doing some analysis and comparison and contrast and all. We're narrowing down. We're saying, yeah, we're going to keep this part. We're going to keep this part. And then, so we're narrowing down all that stuff we gathered up. Then we may want to go back and build on those 2 or 3 little things. Maybe out of all of this, we bring this one little blue dot represents that one thing that we brought out of all that stuff that we've gathered in our research. And we're looking at that blue dot and we're going, yeah, that's it right there. That's where I'm going to go. That's the strongest bit of research I have. So then we're going to come out here and we're going to find a way to diverge in just this one area. Maybe pull some more information in again. And then finally we'll go narrow it down until boom, that's it. Once again, it looks real easy when I diagram it up here, but it's not that simple. You may get all the way right here, and you go back to your design team, and they go, now what? So then you go back over here, and maybe it was this little orange dot all along. My point is, save everything. Save everything. Save it in your sketchbook. Kimberly can tell you she's already gotten on Padlet to create her inspiration board in Padlet. Save it to Padlet. But get you, so I've got an app called Pocket on my phone, and I've gone through all different kinds of apps. Right now I'm in the Pocket app. I'm not saying it's the best, but when I'm scanning the internet and I'm seeing good articles or just a good design or something I just want to keep, I can boom, hit and go straight to Padlet. I don't have to open anything up. It just seamlessly goes into Padlet, and I just fill that Padlet up. And then later on I go, where did I see that? I don't have to wonder about where I saved it. It's all in that one app. So you're going to save everything, and this is going to be what you're going to put on that inspiration board. Okay. Now, with this one idea, you're ready to move in a design direction. And I've got some examples here of sketchbooks from former students who are using this process. So here's a page out of the sketchbook, and this happens to be the project that you guys are starting on right now, Song of the Year, Song. So this student's song was Party All the Time. I don't know that song, y'all know that song? Party All the Time. So what they've done is they've begun to research, and they're just writing their notes. They're not sketching, they're just writing. This was comfortable for them. They're doing a little diagram here. And so what they've determined is Party All the Time is about a guy that's brokenhearted about his girlfriend partying so much. And it's from the 1980s, so the colors that this person is choosing is purple, black, and red. Question mark, they're still wondering if that's right. But this should give you an idea of just how to keep up with your divergence process where you're gathering all this information. What?
I didn't know what song that is.
Yeah, you really did.
That's crazy because you just described to me the colors. Yeah, I never heard that song. And he's like, she loves to party all the time.
So that's pretty good that you were, yeah. So this person's even drawn a little grid here because they know they've got 4 elements, so what are they going to put in each of those boxes, right? So this is the writing, and look at all those. This is the sketchbook page, and look at all that. You know what those are called? They're called thumbnail sketches. Now, this is really big, but these thumbnail sketches are about the size of a postage stamp. And a thumbnail sketch is you talking to yourself. Or maybe you're talking to another designer. But this is just doodle, 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 doodle as fast as you can. You're assimilating all that research that you did in your mind, and you're pumping it back out in the form of doodly little sketches right here. And this is not anywhere near enough for this one project. This student probably did 7 or 8 pages like this. Now, also, this student gridded their sketchbook to do the doodles, but you don't have to do that. This student drew little squares around theirs to. Now they're going to choose maybe 1 or 2 of these thumbnails that have a strong composition. Maybe the composition just screams radial balance. Or maybe the composition screams asymmetrical balance or some principle that you're trying to communicate. So you're not saying, yes, I'm going to use that. You're saying, I'm going to explore this idea a little bit further. So what you do next, I may not have these in order, is you create what's called a rough, R-O-U-G-H, rough. And what that means is you're going to take one of those thumbnails and you're going to expand on it and enhance it. You're going to go ahead and pick the colors and decide exactly where the elements are, how they're arranged in the composition. And you can tell that this is still pretty rough. You can see it's kind of colored in. So it's not a finished project, but it's a strong enough example that the student can show it possibly to the client. They could definitely show it to me, their instructor, and I could say to them, yes, you've done a really good job here, but you haven't captured fully an understanding of this principle. So why don't you go back and read and do some research and learn a little bit more about closure and come back with a stronger response to that concept. So this is what's called a rough. Not the finished product, just much more refined than these doodles right here. Okay? How many roughs are you going to do? Well, there's no set number, but the roughs, if you do a rough, and I'm saying rough so many times I feel like I'm barking like a dog. So if you do a rough and you stand back and look at it, and it's not strong enough to your eye, or somebody, maybe a colleague says, that doesn't really look like radial balance to me or whatever, you don't bring it to me, Keep working on it, keep refining it. And in this stage, You can use markers or you can use color pencils. I like to use color pencils on these. The roughs need to be the exact same size as your finished project. The exact same size and the exact same format. That's very, very important. Because if you look right here at this student's thumbnails, what do you notice about them? The shape of them.
Square.
Is that a square?
Rectangle.
It's a rectangle. What does your assignment call for?
Square.
A square. And if you design in a rectangle and then you try to convert that to a square, you're going to be hitting some problems real fast. So always be sure that you are designing all the way through in the format that this will ultimately become, because all of that will affect the elements in your final composition. So even here, I don't think the student's quite square enough, but pretty close. And then finally, I told you wrong a minute ago, here is the comp, C-O-M-P, or the composition. This is the finished composition for this song. You can see the student didn't go with red, they went with this blue color instead. And so each one of these is supposed to communicate a principle in terms of grouping, a grouping or a design principle. The student did a really good job in terms of iteration, repeat, trying some things, going back and forth and going back and forth. But what finally, I remember now the student was a girl, what finally did her in the end was the lack of craftsmanship in her project. See how crooked that is? The job was kind of dirty. So the craftsmanship grade brought this down considerably. Now, this was hand done using cutouts of paper and then glued down. You can use this process or you can use digital process depending on whatever feels more comfortable to you. So, here are the stages. You start out with thumbnails, and you do a lot of thumbnails. You narrow down your thumbnails through roughs, and then you finally produce your final comp. And yes, I want to see your thumbnails, I want to see your roughs, and I want to see your comps when you turn all this in. And at any point in these stages, I'm happy to look at what you're doing, okay? You just have to come and say, Ms. Robertson, I want you to look at this. I'm like, okay. And it's a good idea if you use me as much as you can, and especially in this first project. And just let me see your work. I'm not going to beat you up. I'm going to try to help strengthen your work. Caitlin?
So the only thing that has the roughs and the thumbnails don't have to be like neat and stuff. Only the comp, right?
Yes, right. Only the comp. Your comp needs to, that's your final piece of art. So your comp needs to be beautiful. Just like this is what the client's going to get, is the comp. Here you're talking to yourself. Here you're probably talking to me or your design team. Maybe the client. And here you're talking to your client. Don't be surprised if you get all the way here and you have to end up going back down here. Okay? But when you show your design to the client, you don't want to have to stand up there and go, well, see, eventually this is going to come back around and this won't be this color. It'll be a little bit like, you don't want to do that. You want to put that comp up and stand back. And that comp's got to do the talking for you. You don't have to say a thing. Now, in critique in this class, you will have to explain what you've done. But ultimately, you don't want to say a thing. Your work is going to speak for itself.